never, ever, ever say that things can't get much worse, because they always can. Even by the most slightest of degrees, things can always get much worse. And I remember when I first saw Halloween Resurrection, I thought, like, man, this is some abysmal shit. Easily the worst of the Halloween series, and it cannot get worse than this. Well, we come to find out years later, oh yeah, it can get worse than this. And this was called Halloween Ends. I could go on all day on how much I abhor this movie, but I'll try to keep it brief. I might say the biggest sin of Halloween Ends is that it doesn't fall through what the previous films, Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, set up. A story, particularly a concluding story, one that's following a particular storyline, like an overarching storyline, needs to conclude that storyline, needs to follow through on any type of lingering, unresolved story plots, elements of the previous chapters. That is the main focus of a concluding chapter, is to wrap up everything that happened before in the previous chapters. And if you don't do that one basic thing, what is the purpose of its existence? If you don't go ahead and conclude, what was set up from before. What is the purpose of a final chapter if it doesn't finish what was started or what was continued? And Halloween Ends does a piss poor job of follow through, and does a piss poor job of properly paying off what was set up. Yeah, it's just maddening to me. Like, forget about everything else. The fact that it doesn't do that basic, simple thing. Like, the whole thing, the meme of you only have one job. And Halloween Ends. It literally is in the title. Halloween Ends. This is the concluding chapter. And, following through, what happened, that night. Because Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, all takes place on one night. So you would assume, or wouldn't it be wrong to assume, that Ends will do the same thing. It's going to continue, it's just going to be this one long bad night with Haddonfield and Michael Myers, and all the shit that happens, with his assault on the town. And it even sets it up at the very ending of Halloween Kills, Laurie finds out that, to her dismay, that Michael has killed her daughter. And, we see her, getting up and grabbing a knife. And, and the film ends pretty much in the same way how Halloween 2018 ends, with a close-up on the knife. So now Laurie has the knife, and she's gonna finally finish off Michael once for all, even though that was supposed to happen in the previous film. But no, this one is for real. We're finally gonna get that conflict, and it's gonna happen imminently. The whole entire ending of Halloween Kills shows that. And also, not only we're not gonna show you that, and we're not gonna give any explanation really of what happened to Michael in that time between the ending of Halloween Kills and the beginning of Halloween Ends in the 4 years or so. We're not going to show you really what happened. We're going to give some vague shit about what happened to him. We're not going to explain how this town that was terribly traumatized by the events in 78 and 2018, we're not going to go ahead and show any type of real fallouts. We're basically going to go ahead and just have everything shown to be seemingly back to normal, and the thing was, I'm skipping a bit. It doesn't even jump immediately, I think, 4 or 5 years. I think, first starts out a year later from the events of Halloween Kills, but we don't see anything from Laurie's perspective. We're introduced to the character of Corey, not Laurie, which I thought was strange. When I first saw it, what the fuck is this? I was thinking, why we're not picking up from the events of Halloween ends, from that ending? Why are we all of a sudden skipping ahead a year later to a whole new character that we have no idea who this is? This character was not mentioned in any way, referred to in any way. This is a completely new character that we have no familiarity with. And why we're skipping ahead a year later to the next Halloween after the terrible events of what happened in Haddonfield in 2018, and people are celebrating Halloween again? Like, you would think after this really horrific event with multiple people who were killed by Michael, and just the madness that happened with the mob, like this whole entire town was shaken to the core. It was shaken to the core even before Michael had gone ahead and insulted the town again with his 2018 rampage. All of a sudden now everybody's fine with celebrating Halloween again? Wouldn't you be thinking like that would be the last thing that the majority of this town would want to do, is celebrate Halloween? You would think there would be some kind of temporary moratorium on celebrating Halloween in this town. Be like, for the next year, maybe longer than that, we're just not going to celebrate Halloween. Or at least not as a collective whole. Celebrate Halloween in this town is done for the foreseeable future. But no, we are reintroduced to Haddonfield a year later, and at least and again, we don't see the whole entire town, but this whole entire town, you could say, is I guess personified in this couple, that is getting ready to go to a Halloween party. They're all dressed up and everything, and this couple, they're having their kid being babysat by Corey. And, we have no indication that this town is, suffering from the fallout from the previous year. It's everything is fine. We forgot about all that. I don't think anyone even mentioned anything about, anything from the previous year. Maybe they did. I haven't seen the film in quite some time, but they're not acting if anybody says anything, they're not acting like they're scared or whatever. And the thing is, Michael Myers is still on the loose. Michael Myers is still on the loose at this point. Why does couple feel safe to go out on Halloween and leave their child alone? It's he's not alone, he's with Corey, and but still, you would think these parents would want to stay home and make sure their child is safe because Michael Myers is still on the loose. You would think everybody, forget about they're not celebrating Halloween because of the massive trauma that would be, felt by everyone because of, the 2018 events. It would also be Michael Myers is still out there. He's going to come back, or potentially come back. Everybody would be inside and, all prepared, for the worst, not celebrating because Michael Myers is still on the loose and he was more powerful than ever. Particularly what he did to the, this whole group of people towards the end of Halloween Kills. So, but whatever, it's just, so we get this beginning. I didn't know where this film was going. Why we have this new character named Corey. Where is Laurie? Where's everybody else from the previous movies? Why are we watching this? And yeah, it wasn't well done setup, I will say that. The way how the scene is done is suspenseful and all that. What happens with Corey in the house. And I get the fear of Michael Myers. I think if I'm remembering correctly, played into that scene. That's part of the reason why that scene worked the way it did. If I'm remembering correctly, I may not, but regardless, but what does that have to do with the story at large, though? What does that have to do with the previous two films? And in a way, nothing, nothing. And that was not a good sign that this film is in trouble. In isolation, the scene is fine. It's solid. But with the whole overall story of Laurie and Michael Myers, it has nothing to do with it. Nothing. And I'm thinking okay, maybe this character, obviously this character is going to be an important character, but this is still going to be Laurie's story, right? And no. It was not Laurie's story, not ultimately. This movie is Corey's story. I'm why the fuck am I watching a trilogy of films that's supposed to be focused, or at least mainly focused on Laurie Strode, one of the best movie characters ever. This whole trilogy is being sold on this character, on the importance of this character, played by a wonderful actor. Why are we diverting from what was supposed to be the original objective of this trilogy, the story of Laurie, to this new character, Corey? What the fuck? Like, what? Wait, what is this bait and switch bullshit? For that alone, people have a right to hate on Halloween Ends. Forget about if the rest, even if the movie was done well, Halloween Ends on its own merits. People are justified in disliking this movie because of that alone. Like, it's a cheat. You can't say this movie is one thing, this series of films is supposed to be about this one person or this one thing or these things, and then in the final chapter decide to take a hard left. It's like, you know what we promised, yeah, fuck you. We're not going to deliver on that promise. We're not going to follow through on the promise of what was the objective of this series. We're not going to follow the promise of, like, you know, finishing these stories, these plot points that we set up. We're going to go in a totally different direction. You're going to like it. If you don't like it, there's something wrong with you, not us, who went ahead and failed in delivering in promises. It's very frustrating. Like, and again, you don't hear it so much now, but I remember when Halloween Ends came out, the amount of people, and again, they were not the majority, but they were very vocal about in defending this movie, and not in a, hey, like, I understand how you're all upset, you know, about, you know, failing to follow through on a number of things from the previous Halloween films in this trilogy, but, and I admit it's flawed and this and that, and there's issues with the film, but despite that, I still liked it. You know, I still liked it on its own merits. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But some of these people were like, oh, they don't have to follow through on the things they set up. Like, who wants to watch another Halloween film when Michael Myers just goes ahead and slashes up people? We already seen all that. Like, they took this series in a bold direction. And, you know, who wants to watch another, you know, Halloween film with Laurie at the center? We've already seen all that. You know, it was good seeing this new character and these new dynamics and this and that. It was good seeing a Halloween film where Michael Myers was like the afterthought. Because Michael Myers is the afterthought in this movie. He was built so much in the previous two films, and just in the entire series in general. In this film, he's a fucking afterthought. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, that's why people were so upset. It's not because of the lack of Michael Myers per se in Halloween Ends. Because when you think about screen time, Michael Myers doesn't really have a ton of screen time in previous entries. Maybe some he has more than others, but he doesn't take up a huge bulk of time. Just like most horror films, the monster isn't in it a whole lot. But you feel their presence even when they're not on screen. And you don't feel his presence in this film. Like, this is Corey's movie. And when they do actually show Michael in this movie, he's a sad shadow, a withered shell of his former self, particularly when they showed him at his most badass and dangerous in Halloween Kills. And in this film, he's at his most weakest and ineffective. Like, it's just, it's embarrassing. It's fucking embarrassing. And they don't even give an explanation. How is he ascending to his most dangerous, formidable self in the previous film? How is he ascending to be at his most powerful in Halloween Kills? And then in the next movie, he's at his most feeble with no explanation. There is no fucking explanation why Michael Myers in the 4 years or 5 years, can't remember the exact amount of time, but why is he so weak? No explanation is given why he's so weak. Like, just suddenly just had this huge, severe, steep drop-off of power to the fact that Corey in one scene is able to beat him? Physically beat him down? That should never fucking happen. Not like give a kick to him, like Busta Rhymes does in Halloween Resurrection. No, to beat on his ass, to put him down to the ground, to steal his mask away from him. How the fuck is that possible? If you're gonna do something like that, at least give a good explanation, but they gave nothing. This film feels more like a homage to Christine, another John Carpenter great, than to Halloween. You know, he ran out of steam, like, for Halloween. Like, all he wanted to say, he already said it in Halloween 2018, the Halloween Kills. He didn't know where else to go, where to take the story. Because it's clear, like, he didn't know what to do with the story after the first one. Like, it's clear Halloween Kills, like, there's barely any story in that. It's just shit happening. There is barely any plot in that film. It's just kills, kills, and kills. A little bit of commentary about mob justice, but it's basically nothing to that film. It's just a bunch of scenes just strung together to give a semblance of a movie. Like, he was already tapped out for ideals, because Halloween 2018 was supposed to be a one and done film. That's it. And then, like, for whatever reason, he felt a need to go ahead and continue with, these Halloween movies. And, but he didn't have any ideals, so let me just go ahead and just, like I said, just make a series of creative kills for Halloween Kills, and I'll pass enough, as a movie. But then he knew he couldn't do that the third time around. He knew he had to have some semblance of a story, of a plot, and that wasn't a rehash of what was already done in previous stuff. But he didn't have any ideals, so he decided, well, if I can't do anything in the world of Halloween, I'll do something in the world from another film. Like, get inspiration from another group of films or film. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, like, looking outside, I guess, the box of whatever, of, like, ideals, looking outside the lore. Like, sometimes you get inspiration from the most, unlikely places. But, and there's nothing wrong with using Christine as an inspiration for a Halloween film, but at the end of the day, it still needs to feel like a Halloween movie, though, ultimately. And it just doesn't feel like a Halloween movie. This feels like a big-time homage to Christine. It feels like a kind of a Christine, at least thematically, like semi-sequel. It feels like also like he wanted to do like a love story, lovers that like who are like being oppressed by the world. You have people who just felt like the world's on their backs, and then they come together and they find romance, and like, we're gonna go ahead, it's me and you against the world, and we're gonna go ahead and show the world what we're about, and we're gonna show the world not to fuck with us. And this whole like romance between Corey and Laurie's granddaughter Allison, who feels like a completely different character in this film. Like, how do you go from dumping her boyfriend for kissing someone at the prom with the 2018 film, just instant, like, we're done, that's it, to like, oh, being this lovesick puppy for Corey, like, who a clearly very troubled person, like, who does some very troubling things later on. Like, this clearly Corey's bad news in this film. And of course what happens to him at first is like unfortunate, fucked up. He gets put in a situation he should have never been put in. But he ultimately doesn't handle it in the best way, and he handles it in the worst way possible, and it fucks him in the end. But yeah, like, the way how Allison acts and the way how she like betrays Laurie for Corey, like, it just, none of it is believable at all. It just isn't. They don't have any real romantic chemistry, and their love story feels forced. And why we're focusing on this love story instead of Michael? Why we're focusing on this love story instead of Laurie? Like, if anybody's supposed to have a love story in this Halloween trilogy of films, it should be Laurie. And they already set up something, Halloween Kills, or the possibility of something between her and Sheriff Hawkins. And I actually liked, the little bit they set up inside Halloween Kills. Like, it felt like, okay, this can go somewhere, But instead of following that, if you have to do a love story between them. Particularly, like, in mainstream films, you rarely ever see love stories between older people, particularly older people in their 60s and beyond. Like, they act like romance between older people isn't a real thing, which is absolute bullshit. Hollywood has this huge aversion to old people in love. They just do. And this could have been a perfect opportunity to go ahead and rectify some of that bullshit. But no, we want a love story between two young people, and I just thought this is fucking ridiculous. When they already had a love story that was already proper, or at least the possibility of a love story, properly set up in Halloween Kills. It was one of the few things they actually did right in terms of writing in Halloween Kills. The kills this time around are not memorable, except for maybe one. Like, I remember one that happened at the DJ station. Okay, that was kind of memorable. But overall, the kills this time around are weak, particularly when some of the strongest kills in the series, most memorable ones, were in the previous film and the film before that. They were just, David Gordon Green was truly like tapped out for ideals. for Halloween, for Michael Myers. Like anything, it felt like he had a sliver of a good idea. Had nothing to do with the Michael Myers stuff. Had nothing to do with the world of Michael Myers, what you expect from a Michael Myers movie. Like everything, like in terms of Laurie, he had nothing to say. He had nothing more to say about Michael. In terms of the kills, like he had really nothing else to show that was memorable. Like the stuff he felt like he had some interest in saying that, again, was the stuff that's nothing to do with the world of Halloween. You know, this new character Corey, the Christine stuff, some of the other themes that were new to Halloween, the whole tragic love story bullshit. But everything that, you know, we love about Halloween and we enjoy about Halloween, yeah, he was clearly nearly or completely tapped out, and it shows big time. I could go on and say more stuff about, you know, this film, the things that I don't like about this film, that I hate about this film. I just want to go ahead and just finish this up. The ending of this film is just incredibly disappointing. Like when they finally do get back to the whole Laurie and Michael conflict near the end of the movie, and I think this might be the longest Halloween film too. It's like hour 51, something like that. You know, they finally decide, the filmmakers, you know, of this movie to, I think we need to, you know, finish up the Halloween story, the whole Michael Myers and Laurie Strode conflict, I guess. You know, it is utterly underwhelming how they close up everything. The battle between Laurie and Michael, the final battle, very disappointing. Like it all happens in the kitchen. It's not even the fact that it takes place in the kitchen why it's bad, it's just the way how it's executed. And how Michael Myers is ultimately done in by a refrigerator. A fucking refrigerator. One of the most deadliest characters of all time is ultimately done in by a fucking refrigerator. You know, refrigerator is the thing that finally takes him down. And he gets his, I think, got his arm broken or some shit. Then he gets, I think, attacked a couple more ways. I can't exactly remember. And then, like, the town, like, comes out like, in mass. And there's this really, like, kind of pretentious, corny scene where they all come out in slow motion. You know, we finally gotta take down Michael once and for all. And they all, like, assemble together and they take his corpse from Laurie's house. And they take him to, like, this junkyard. And they destroy his body by putting him in some kind of like huge grinder that would be used to like grind up cars. That part I don't necessarily think is a bad idea. Like, you know, somebody like Michael Myers, you would want to destroy their body like completely, and a grinder would be a perfect way to do that. But then after that, I would be like burning the remains till there's nothing but ash. But I mean, that part of it was fine, but just the overall like how Michael Myers gets taken down was ridiculous. It was absolutely just ridiculous and very, very, very disappointing. And just how it's all executed just felt so off and just not right and anticlimactic. There's so many better ways how Michael Myers was taken out in the previous Halloween films, and this one is the worst. Easily the worst. But it makes sense. It's easily the worst Halloween film. It's just terrible. It's terrible in every single way. Like, it's terrible even by its own merits. Like, the story is all over the place. The writing, the dialogue is often bad and cringy. Like, even going back to the whole, like, setup and payoffs, like, proper setup and payoffs, even within this particular entry, it's like, the movie's, like, setting up that Corey, who I want to mention was well played by Rowan Campbell. He is really great in this role. I just wish he and this character were inside a much better film, and particularly a film that's not named Halloween. Like, maybe if they were doing this in isolation, that this was not connected to the previous two Halloween films, and this was just a totally brand new Halloween film, a reboot, and they want to go in this different direction with Halloween, I would have never minded that. But it wasn't. In terms of setup and payoff, so this film is setting up that Michael Myers is like passing on his evil to Corey, and Corey is now the new Michael Myers. So you would think, like, it's not the direction I want to see this film go, you know, this concluding chapter in this trilogy. But it makes sense that you're going to end this film with Corey being the new Michael Myers. But no, it doesn't end that way. Like, for a moment, it seems to go that way, that Corey's going to become the new Michael Myers. But then just as soon as that happens, he's immediately killed. And he's killed before the climax. This doesn't even happen during the climax. That would be disappointing if they even happened in the climax. But this happened before the climax. So what was the point of setting up Corey as the new Michael Myers and putting all this focus on Corey at the expense of Laurie's story, at the expense of Michael Myers, if in the end you're not going to do anything with it, where you're going to kill that possibility, well, kill that eventuality before it has a chance to even take off. You do nothing with it. Like, you set this up for nothing. And that's what this whole entire trilogy is. All set up, but no payoff. What was the point of this whole entire trilogy if you're not going to properly pay it off? It feels like a waste of time. It feels like it's pointless. You set up something, you pay it off, and you do it right. And this whole trilogy, in the end, did it wrong. And, you know, it's just really frustrating. It's just really, really frustrating. Like, the series, this trilogy started off with so much promise. I think I've said enough about this particular trilogy. Whoever continues, you know, with the Halloween saga at some point in the future, please learn the lessons of what was done right and what was done wrong. Until next time.